I remember I got there and I remember hearing the nurse give a report. She doesn't believe he has any functions on his own, and that only the drugs and the machines are doing it for him. She was telling the younger nurse that she feels like the brain function is completely gone and that he's not breathing on his own. His heart rate's not staying up on his own. It's because the drugs are there. And if they remove the drugs, nothing would happen. He would just be there, just stagnant. So I remember and I was like, no, that's not true. His chest does rise when you guys disconnect him to change his position. She's like, that's reflex. I'm like, reflex would not make it rise. And I remember that's when I said, I'm going to come and do shifts with you guys. So I started staying later till like night.
Good.
I literally started staying till 11 p.m. So I was there for every shift change to literally watch them do their report.
I bet some of them were annoyed.
They were. They tried to report me, but since I was in a private room, they couldn't kick me out because I'm not hearing anybody else's report.
Right.
It's my son's private room.
Right.
So they couldn't get rid of me. So I would stay till literally sometimes midnight. And I remember I was using my cousin's car to get to the hospital, and then the car broke down, so I couldn't get there. So I remember I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get to the hospital now? Like, I cannot miss a date. I never missed a date, Miss Michelle. I was there every single day. And it didn't make me feel bad because of my other son, because I wasn't there with him. But I felt like I was fighting for all of us. So that's how I coped with it. So by the grace of God, some number called me from the insurance. I was praying one night and the lady said, I'm a case coordinator and I just want to call you because through your insurance I can help you if you're having any issues with housing or with cars or transportation. Just let me know. And I said, actually, I need transportation right now. So she said, oh, really? Why? I was like, to make it to the NICU for my son. She's like, well, how often? I'm like, every day. I'm like, I come here every day. So she said, I'm going to put in a referral for you. She puts in the referral. A week later, at that point, I was taking the bus. It took me 2 hours to get to the hospital.
Oh my God.
So I was taking the bus to get there to see Khalil. So when the referral was approved, they approved it for, at the time, 4 months. And I said, in my mind, I'm like, this is God telling me. And like 3 months or 4 months, the baby's going home.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I set up my routine for them to come pick me up. They picked me up every morning at like 9. And I went back home at midnight.
Wow.
So I was there every morning. So I remember when the lady said that, I was like, okay, I have to be here every day and do the shift change and correct them if they're saying something wrong. I remember watching his machine, watching them when they change him, and I'm like, he can breathe. And I kept saying, he can breathe. Like, he can breathe on his own. But no one was believing me because I'm the delusional mom. So one day, my son's blood pressure was tanking. His respiratory was going really low. Everything they did, his carbon dioxide was filling up his lungs. So they decided to go against the company's policy, and they decided to put him under a medical paralysis. So
like in a coma.
Like in a coma.
Yeah.
So they paralyzed him medically. So he had no ability with his muscles. Like, he could not.
And you didn't have to, like say.
They did not ask me. It was when I left they did it. So they called me at 4 a.m. telling me that they had to paralyze him. And then telling me that now his blood pressure is tanking. And I said, where did you think the blood pressure was going to go after giving him all these seductive, you know what I mean? So I rushed back to the hospital. I remember that night, rushing back to the hospital, and I was pissed, Miss Michelle. I was pissed. I said, if you guys think, if I walk in and my son is not breathing, I promise you this whole hospital is going down with me. Like, I was pissed.
God, they shouldn't have done that without consulting you.
Yeah, someone who's having blood pressure issues, then you go and give them 3 extra drugs to calm them down. Where did you think the blood pressure was gonna go?
Yeah.
So I get there and I said, who's the doctor who approved this? I need to talk to them. So they're like, oh, we're gonna get the attending. I said, I need the doctor who approved this, because I need to understand what was the thought process behind this decision, and where did he expect his blood pressure to go. And I said, do not talk to me about palliative care, and I want him to be a full code right now. And they said, do you know what you're asking? You want him to be a full code, which means we would have to do CPR? I said, yes, put him a full code right now. And then I remember the nurse, she was like, she tried to talk to me, and then she said, when do you think enough is enough? When do you think we're playing God? And she's like, sometimes I feel like the doctor allowed parents to have too much power. Yes. And I looked at her and I said, if with that mindset, anybody who's a diabetic should not be here because they require assistance to live their daily lives.
Right.
Like, you can't decide. I'm like, I need a meeting. So after they did what they did and his blood pressure was tanking, I said, remove the drugs now and up the hydrocortisone. They said, what? I said, give him a higher dose of hydrocortisone and remove the drugs. So, and I said, slowly wean him off of them, and we could see what he did. This is the funny part, Miss Michelle. I'm going there, I'm fighting with these people. And when we look back, his respiration is at 100%. His oxygen.
Oh, wow.
The best it's ever been since day one. So the room just got quiet.
Yeah. It's like you had to be playing the doctors.
Yes.
Like being the doctor.
Yes. So it was like a Hail Mary. So what they thought, looking back, what they thought they were doing was buying him time so that I could see him in the next morning so that they can disconnect him.
You're lucky they didn't disconnect him behind your back.
Yeah. Thank goodness they didn't tell me he passed away, and then I had to just come. So I came back, but I felt like they were a little bit afraid because I had a lot of knowledge with the medical field. So I feel like they were really treading lightly.
They know that you know what you're doing. They realize that you know what you're talking about.
Yes. So I feel like that made them a little bit cautious with certain things. So I was really upset. So I got there, but what they thought was like the last line for him was his Hail Mary and was his grace. Because when they did that, his lungs started expanding so much and his breathing was working so well, they had to hurry up and bring down his pressures.
Wow.
Lower than any respiratory drug could ever do for him. So they brought down his pressures. He's seeing 24/10, which means 240 breaths per minute in his lungs. Like, that's how high his pressures was.
Wow.
Even when they gave him dexamethasone, his pressures never went low.
Wow.
So when they put him under the paralysis, his pressures went all the way down to the 10s, almost to the point where they could extubate him.
Wow.
They were shocked. But the problem now was his blood pressure. Because even though the respiratory is working, now the blood pressure is not working. And the nurse was telling me that she believes that he's brain dead. And I said, is there any test that can determine if he's brain dead? So I asked to speak to the doctors and the neurologist, and they told me there's 3 factors that would say he's brain dead. If his blood pressure tanks, his heart rate tanks, and he's not reading, which means his parasympathetic reflexes are not working. So I'm like, well, is he showing those signs? They're like, no, anytime those things have happened, we've had a reason to say why it happened. So they're like, we don't believe that he's brain dead. He's too young to really do any tests to know if he's actually brain dead. So I remember that nurse, she tried to act as if she was being a mom to me and try to explain to me things. And then she came and told me that she doesn't have a life because she has a kid that's medically complex too. Okay, so she told me she has a kid that has medical complexities and how she carried him full term and then he ended up being paraplegic. So she said, I don't have a life, my relationship is messed up, me and my husband don't have a life, and her youngest son can't go out because she's not going to take the one who's sick out with the youngest son. And in my mind, I'm like, do you resent this child?
She does.
You know what I mean? And she was basically telling me, you don't have to choose this life for yourself.
Wow.
About my son. And I was like, I understand what you're saying. She's like, you know he's gonna be medically complex, right? You know he's gonna have issues, right? I'm like, we don't know that.
Right.
And then she's like, he is. I'm like, no, he's not. I'm like, we don't know that.
Right.
So, but I had no issues with her having these conversations with me. I drew the line was when she lied on his report.
So that was the same one that lied. Wow.
She reported that his head grew 3 centimeters overnight because he has a brain bleed and they're watching for if the blood is gonna grow. So she reported that it grew really big overnight.
Because she want them to disconnect him.
Because she want the doctors to start giving up on him too. But what I realized was all the older nurses were friends. And once one of them is convinced that he's no longer there, all the other ones are convinced too.
Wow.
Because they feel like they know, they've seen babies for a long time. They know when a baby's gonna make it. They know when a baby's not gonna make it.
Right.
So she tried to convince me. I did not listen to her. I didn't care anything she was saying. So I went on with my day. And then now they're like, we don't understand why he's breathing so well. But
they don't understand why.
They don't understand why he's breathing so well. But then when he's awake, he's tanking so much. That's when it clicked to them. They're like, he's fighting with the machine. Which means the reason why when he's in the machine, his lungs is working so hard is because he's fighting against what the machine is trying to do.
He want to do it on him.
He want to do it by himself. Which means he can breathe on his own. And literally that was when people started listening to me when I was like, he can do it because his chest rises when you guys disconnect him. So, oh my gosh, like that was literally one of the biggest turnarounds because the nurses weren't believing that he can breathe and they were starting to do that report. And I feel like maybe if that night did not happen, even though I was really upset, with reason, because I then told them, next time you guys want to do an intervention, look at all the factors. His blood pressure was going to tank. You should have upped his hydrocortisone to basically fight against the drugs that was going to bring down his blood pressure. Right. Because I'm like, now don't come to me telling me that his blood pressure is tanking when you knew that's what was going to happen when you put him on paralysis. So, Miss Michelle, it was a long, long journey. I remember making suggestions to the doctors and they used to look at me like, did you go to school?
What you told them?
Yes, because I remember telling them, can we use a vasopressor at one point? And then they're like, we were just discussing that with our colleague, but we'll think of that option. And some doctors didn't like when I would have suggestions. They're like, who am I? But some of them, if it made sense, they would think of it and end up doing it. Miss Michelle, like I remember I was like, you guys need to up his hydrocortisone and give him 2 of the drugs instead of 3. They're like, well, being on sedation is very scary. If he's not fully asleep and he can't move his muscles, it might impact his he might be in shock and he can't regularly because he's like, why can't I move my arms? Why can't I do? But I'm like, we're gonna have to fight. It's like we're choosing between our poisons, and I'm like, we have to keep the blood pressure to a good amount, and we have to keep his lungs arrested enough where he can, so he can breathe and do it better, so the lungs can heal. So they decided to go with my plan, and they did it, and we did it for 2 weeks, and then shortly after that, he started tanking again because he started fighting with the machine again. And they're telling me, oh, we don't think he could go to the next machine. And I'm like, why not? They're like, we don't think he can support it because anytime we do a change for him, he doesn't take it well. And when she said that, I was like, I don't receive that. And then I was praying and I was like, he's gonna do well. And then they did it. Miss Michelle, by that point he was 2 months. They did it and he was perfectly fine.
Wow.
He did better than they could ever think he would do.
Wow.
On the next machine.
Thank God you're the person that you are too. If it was just a mom, a regular mom that okay, and just go with everything they say.
Yeah.
Except disconnecting him, because I would fight to the last drop. I was not gonna disconnect my child.
Me too.
No.
I'm very grateful, and I'm surprised I didn't put hands on any of those nurses.
Yeah.
Even
the ones that were telling you may not come back and see him tomorrow. You don't think he's gonna be here.
Yeah.
Nothing encouraging.
Nothing encouraging. I remember every time I would walk in, it's like they're trying to convince me to disconnect him. Or you're playing God. Do you think you're strong? If God really wanted him to be here, he wouldn't make him go through all this because he was the sickest baby in the hospital. But I'm like, this is none of your business. So shortly after that, I called a meeting with everyone and everyone on his team. When I came in, I stood in that room and I told everybody. I said, I do not open up to people easily. I'm gonna say this once and once only. I said, I just buried my father. He was in a coma for 40 days. On the 40th day, he died. I said, I understand clearly, like day and night, if someone's not supposed to be here, they will not be here. I cannot do anything about it. I said, I don't care if my son breathes in 1 minute, in 1 second, in a day. I will not disconnect him. And I said, I need you guys to understand that I will not disconnect my son. So if we don't work on getting him out of here, I will be here forever. And that's what I told them. And I said, I need you guys to understand that. If it's up to me, he will never be disconnected. Never. And I said, please stop talking to me about palliative care. I said, do you think I care how many times we have to stick his heel and how he doesn't really have blood coming out? I was like, when he's running with his brother, I'm not going to remember that day. I said, I do not care. Stop telling me to disconnect him. And I was like, none of anything you guys are saying is not helping me. I don't care. I'm not changing my mind. So I told him, I was like, so it's either we work on getting him out of here or we'll be here through this journey forever.
That's a testimony and a half.
It was a lot.
So how long did he stay in the NICU?
He stayed in the NICU for 5 months.
5 months.
And I think it's really because they were scared to do anything for him. They wanted to do something, they kept dragging their feet. Even to remove the tube out of his throat, saying, okay, if he pulls it out, then we know he's ready. But he never pulled it out. And then they finally decided to go and do it, and they put him on the CPAP, and he did fine with the CPAP. He did better with the CPAP.
Okay.
And then they felt a little bit. But every time they were doing anything for him, even if he was like 3 months old, 4 months old, they were always scared.
This little boy is a fighter. He's here for a reason.
Yes.
A big, big reason.
Yes. And I will help him through every step of the way, because the fact that he's even crawling, he only needs oxygen at night.
So right now, he's a year and a half, almost.
Yeah, almost. Crawling now. He's on oxygen at night when he's asleep. He doesn't need oxygen throughout the day. And he's saying words. He's saying mama, baba. So he's doing a lot of stuff that people did not expect him to do at all. And I remember, now the neurologist, when he sees him, he's like, I'm just going to follow him because the books are not describing him. So it feels good because now the appointments are less hectic than what they used to tell me back then.
So how many doctors he has now?
So he has 2 doctors for the brain, 2 doctors for his lungs. He has to be seen by pulmonologists and a BPD team.
What is the BPD?
It's bronchopulmonary dysplasia.
Okay.
So he has to be seen with them, and then he has 2 different doctors for his eyes, and then his throat. He has to be seen by throat, ears, and eyes.
ENT.
Yes. So then, and digestive too.
Okay.
And then outside of that, he has physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech, and all this other stuff too. That has to see him at home. So he has a couple appointments. I'm in and out of appointments almost every day, every other day or so. But honestly, I'm very proud of him. I'm very happy to see the person
so
he
happy
is.
to see him.
Yes.
So happy. He's so cute, guys. He wears glasses with his little
glasses.
He's
yes,
so
he has
cute.
glasses. And then, I forgot to say, his whole journey, he never had a surgery. Wow. Which is really big too.
Yeah.
The only surgery he had was the laser eye.
Yeah.
But never cut open.
Wow. That is good.
Yeah, which is another really big thing because most babies, when I'm hearing the other parents' testimonies, they're by day 5 they had to do surgeries for them.
Wow.
Day 4 they had to do some type of surgery. Never developed neck. It was very, very. And I remember, last thing, before he left, he kept getting random infections with the same virus. It was GBS, and he got it 1 week apart 3 times.
What was the reason?
We don't know. I felt like that was literally just just the devil, honestly, trying to discourage us, because it's when he was getting close to going home, because that was the first time people started talking about him being home to me. And I remember the first time the doctor said it, and I was like I just looked at the doctor when they said, "Oh yeah, like then you'll probably have to buy a car seat," and I'm like, "A car seat?"
Oh, I would cry.
Yeah, I was like, a car seat, and then they're like, "It's okay, you can relax now, you can breathe, like you don't have to always just be." I'm like, I'm fine. I'm actually fine. Say like, why don't you cry? Why don't you? I'm like, I don't know, but
you're just
I'm
a strong person.
Yes,
and you have strong faith.
Yes, it really grew my faith, because like through that journey and everything he went through, oh my gosh, if God wasn't with me, I don't think I would be there. It was a hard journey, Miss Michelle.
Guys, we're gonna put pictures of, so you guys can see how tiny he was.
Yes.
And she's gonna start her own YouTube channel. I'm encouraging her, guys, to start the channel so you guys can follow her, you know, just be in their lives, just seeing his development. And because I'm sure there's other people going through the same exact things and probably worse.
Yes, yes.
And I know there's people out there that followed what the doctor said and disconnect their loved ones.
Yes, yes.
I'm sure.
Because they told me the mortality rate was 0% at the hospital. And I think probably because most of the parents disconnected their baby.
Wow.
Yeah, they told me he had a 0% survival rate.
I would not disconnect. I would do exactly what you did. Yeah.
Yes, it was a long journey, but I'm very proud of him. And yes, I'll put the pictures. I was taking notes. I even have notes of everything.
You have
they
like
said.
a diary of everything that happened.
What nurse worked with him, what day, what did they do, what drugs did they give him. I literally was taking notes like a nurse every day. It was a long journey.
He's here for a purpose, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
Thank God. Yes. Thank you guys for watching us.
Thank you guys. And I hope this helps someone. Help you to make a decision if you're not sure what to do, because honestly, if I would watch this video, if I didn't know Adrena and I would be going through something and I would watch this video, trust me guys, I would learn a lot from it, and my hopes would be up here, honestly.
Yes.
So love you guys. When she makes her YouTube channel, I'm gonna put it on my screen, guys, so you guys can go over and subscribe to her channel so you can meet her little cuties. She has two. She has how old is
Enzo? 3. Yes.
He's 3 years old.
Yes.
Guys, so I'm encouraging her to do so. So maybe the next time, or no, you have to tell me when you set up the channel.
Yes, yes. I have a channel, but I have to set up. I have a tag.
Okay.
I'll give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. We love you guys, and stay safe.
And God bless.
And God bless.
Bye.